In this video, we'll take a look at Macrobat, which is a MIDI remote script for Live 8 that adds additional functionality to rack devices. All right, and Macrobat does come with complete documentation along with an example set, so please make sure to refer to that when you download. In order to use Macrobat, you need to have it selected as a control surface, and the included documentation covers how to do that. Once it's selected, you'll be able to use it with any live set. All right, so here I've just got the default live set, and to get started, I can either drag in racks that I've saved or create new ones. All right, so I'm going to create a new one by inserting a blank audio effect rack. All right, I'm going to duplicate this. You'll see why in just a second. All right, and the first rack type that I'm going to show you is the track rack, and this will control mixer parameters, volume, pan, and sends for whichever track it's on. All right, so to use this rack, you first got to name it NK track. All right, and this can have additional info after it as well, like, my rack. All right, and then you rename the macros to the parameters you want them to control. So this one will do volume, then, pan, send A, and send B. All right, now when you make changes to a rack name or the macro names, you need to reselect the rack in order for the changes to take effect. All right, so that's why I have this other rack here. I'm going to select this, and you can see as soon as I did that, the macro value is updated to reflect the values of the mixer. All right, so now I can control it. All right, and this is bidirectional, so if I make changes here, they'll be reflected on the macro as well. All right, and the rack still has its default functionality as well, so if I wanted to, let's say for example, have a reverb level change, like the dry-wet level change while the volume was changing, I could do that. I can also scale this still. All right. And this is going to apply when I change with the macro or when I change it with the volume itself. The next rack type is the receiver rack, and this one lets you use the macros to control the macros of other racks. All right, so to show you how that works, first you have to give the name NK receiver to the rack, and then for each macro you want to use as a receiver, you have to give it a unique identifier. All right, so I'm going to call this one 1, and then this one 2. All right, now for the macros that I want to control with these receivers, I just have to add the identifier to their name. So I'm going to control this low cut with the first one, and then this attack with the second one. All right, now again, because I made changes to names, I need to update my selection so that these values can be grabbed and everything can be connected. All right, so now I've got control over those macros, and it's bidirectional, so if I make changes from the macro, the receiver rack is updated as well. The next rack type are the R&R racks, and these are the simplest of the rack types because they actually don't use the macros, they just use the on-off switch, and there's 4 of these. The first is R&D, and this will randomize the parameters of the device to the right of it. All right, R&D all will randomize the parameters of all the devices on the track. RST will reset the parameters of the device to the right of it, and RST all will reset the parameters of all devices. The next rack type is the MIDI rack, and this one lets you send MIDI messages from the macros. It could send control change, program change, or sysx messages. In this example, I'm just going to be showing you control change, CCs, and I've got these ones set up for controlling subtractor. All right, now I do want to mention though that unlike the other rack types, this is in bidirectional. So if I make changes in Reason itself, they're not going to be reflected on the macro. All right, this is only one-way communication.